Hi everyone, and welcome back to Fertility TV. I am Marc Sklar, the Fertility Expert, and today I am super excited because we are talking about love. I'm doing that with Delfina, otherwise known for me as Del. And I'm excited to bring her to you. I'm going to share a little bit about Del to you all and introduce her to you. And as I do that, I'm going to turn my head to what I've written, and then I'll come back to you guys. So sorry for turning my head. Del is a spirited nutrition coach, a movement educator and recipe developer, and alternative health blogger behind Alternative Health and Wellness Information Hub, known as Code to Wellness. It's a wonderful website. If you haven't checked it out, you should. It gives you lots of wonderful, good, meaty info. And basically, she helps people reclaim their health and thrive in their bodies using self-care systems that allow them to overcome the struggle with weight, sugar cravings, hormone imbalance, and movement-related issues successfully and sustainably. And recently, a friend of hers actually called her the Body Whisperer, which I love. So today, I bring you Del from Code to Wellness. I'm excited to have her here, and we're going to talk about love and kind of how we bring it all together with everything that we do, and kind of how, as Del sometimes says, is like, making sure that we're eating real food, and that brings us love, and that we're moving every day, and that hopefully brings us some love. So I'm tying it into my love theme today, and that we think happy thoughts, and definitely how that brings us some love. So, Del, welcome, and why don't you say a little hello to everybody?
Yeah, thank you so much for that awesome intro, Mark, and hello to everybody watching this. We're super excited to be chatting. Mark and I actually go way back, so this is a really nice sort of love themed reunion for us.
I'm
very excited to be here chatting about that with you guys today.
Nice. Yes, we do go way back. We've known each other for several years and have spoken and collaborated and chatted in the past about supporting each other. And so here we are. So when we started talking about this theme today and bringing this to everybody, I thought it was a great idea. And when I posed this question to you, saying, "Hey, what did you want to talk about?" Your first thought, it was really quick. It was like, "Let's talk about love." And I think that can kind of get misconstrued or thought in a lot of different ways, right? So,
yeah.
So what did you mean behind that when you brought that up?
That's a great question. So you're right. Talking about love can mean a lot of different things, and so here's what we're not talking about today. We're not talking about the kind of love that you see in a romantic comedy on TV or an epic love story like The Notebook. We're not talking about the kind of love that you would have between you and your significant other. What we're talking about is the love that you have, not just for yourself, but for the things that you're doing in your life. And so I think where I was at personally when I brought up that conversation was I was thinking about the times in my life where I've had that question pop up in my head. And the question has been so blatant, and it's been exactly that. What do you love, right? So it's not just do you love yourself, but it is what do you love, meaning, what are the things that bring you the most joy? And I think it's a question that is so important, but easily escapes us and or eludes us. And so the first time that came up in my life for me was a really interesting situation. I had recently graduated from college, which is no longer a recent thing. But at the time that this question popped into my head the first time, I had recently graduated from college, and I was in this place where I was transitioning out of the idea of working in the music industry and transitioning into my health and wellness journey. I had totally done the college thing and gained way more than the freshman 15, and I didn't feel at home in my own skin anymore, so I was trying to reclaim that. And I remember one day I was in a yoga class, a Kundalini yoga class. I didn't know that much about yoga. I wasn't a yoga instructor then, and I teach yoga tune-up now. But she put us into Shavasana,
Mm-hmm.
and I just had all this turmoil sort of running around in my head because I was so uncertain about my future. I was at the time I was studying to become a personal trainer, and I wanted to help people with their health and wellness to better themselves, but I just was so unsure if I was doing the right thing and if I could actually help people. That was one of my big things. So I get into Shavasana, and it's just like, bam, like, usually Shavasana is like pretty relaxing and we all kind of like are sort of drifting into sleep. This was like a lot closer to being in a nightmare. It was like, what do you love? What do you love? What do you love? What do you love? And I surprised my own self because I was like, what do I love? And so that was the first time that I had that experience. And, at the time, I don't think I really knew the answer to that question, but I could feel in my bones that even though what I was doing was really hard, I was trying to get a certification, a new certification. I was trying to create my own business and make sure that I was helping people without hurting them. All that was really new to me and really scary to me. And that was what I loved, even though I was scared of it in that moment. And so I think that a lot of us, we sort of get in this track when we're in college, maybe beforehand, that it's like we have this beautiful time to explore, right?
Mm-hmm.
The things that we love. And for me, one of the things I've always loved the most is music. I love health and wellness. That is my career. That's what I do. But I'm a musician at heart. And so that's a piece of my health and wellness that has to be in my life. Otherwise, there's an element of health for me that is missing.
Sure.
So, I had the privilege of studying that, and my career path changed afterward. It didn't end up being what I did as a career, but, that's okay. But I had that time to explore. Most of us get that. Not all of us do, but I think we have this sort of magical time in college, and then we graduate, and it's like we're sort of thrown into this whole big, bad new world where we're supposed to function in a different capacity. All of a sudden we have a pretty hard and fast 9 to 5. We've got a lot of bills to pay, plus school debt. So that question about what do you love often gets put on the back burner.
Yep.
And it's not what do you love, it's what the hell do you need to do to survive, And so, and it's not a bad thing to survive, of course, but I think a lot of people's health ends up really, really suffering because that piece gets so buried. And so we start with the basics: eat real food, change what you're eating.
Mm-hmm.
And then we start with the other basic: move more and stuff like that. But a lot of time it's this underlying question, what do you love? Is it buried? Why is it buried? And frankly, then what do you hate? And are you doing too much of what you hate? Is it canceling out all of that love? Because that weighs on you, and for most of us it weighs physically on us. It creates a physical weight, or it creates actions that are more or less out of self-hatred that create physical weight.
Mm-hmm.
So, but and then you pair all that up with meeting somebody great, getting married or engaged, and those are beautiful things. I've done it myself. But sometimes you can lose yourself even a little bit more, especially for those of us who are sponges. Like, I'm a sponge. I love to learn. I try and soak up a little bit of everybody, but sometimes that can also be to our detriment because we forget at our root, what is it that we love? What is it that we came here to do? And are we doing it? That kind of thing. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm asking these questions. What do you love? And
Mm-hmm.
how is that, or is it not, showing up in your life or in your day?
Yeah, you said so many different things that I wanted to comment on. For those, first and foremost, no, it's okay because it's all good stuff. For those who don't know what Shavasana is, will you let them know?
Oh, yeah. Shavasana
I can do it, but you're the yoga instructor. I'm not, so I figured it best coming from you.
I don't mind. Shavasana is basically everybody's favorite pose. In English, it's called corpse pose. So you're just lying on your back, flat on your back, arms and legs sort of naturally out to either side, and you close your eyes, and you either, begin a meditation or you potentially fall asleep. But you're supposed to be meditating or reflecting. That's
Okay.
Shavasana.
Cool. I saw something this morning of a perfect quote that goes along with this. I'm trying to find it, and
Oh, okay.
I can't find it. But
Dang it.
so so thanks for clarifying that. Aside from
Yeah.
the kind of the Shavasana thing, um, one of the things that really stuck out for me is kind of the way you described that, right? We get to college. One of the things I'd kind of say that happens in college that I notice that we kind of get lost in is that many of us are just also trying to fit in college, right? It's our first time away from home. We're trying to fit in, and so I think when that happens, we lose a little bit of ourselves.
Absolutely.
We forget who we are, or we're trying to be something that we're not. And with that, we start to lose the things that we love to do and start to do some other things.
Yeah, that's definitely an element of it as well. There are those of us that are really trying to fit in and do everything that maybe our parents have wanted us to do, or our new friendships and relationships are kind of guiding us in that direction. And then there are those of us who just, we know what we love to do. We know we already like, so let's study that, even if it maybe doesn't have a very clear pathway to financial fitness or whatever afterward.
Yeah, and then we start to do things like you mentioned. We get out of college, and I'd actually say even goes into college. Like, we're doing things to survive. You're trying to survive socially in college, maybe, or educationally, and then you're trying to survive when you get out because you just need to make money, right? And I would juxtapose that towards thriving. Like, we're just surviving and we're not thriving, and I think that's a huge issue that tends to happen. Where we start to lose the joy in life, the joy in the things that we to do, and the love that comes with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the, it comes out in a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. Yeah. But one of the ways that I see that come out, and one of the ways that it's come out in me and come out in my clients, is sugar cravings, and even taking that even a little bit further, an addiction to sugar. Mm-hmm. So for me, for instance, as with a lot of people, it's an easy way to get some immediate gratification.
Yeah.
Right? And forget about or drop whatever heavy thing might be on our mind. You know what I mean? And so I used to do that a lot. I think my sugar addiction probably started a very long time ago. And thankfully it's something I have overcome. But I was fortunate enough to come from a very healthy family. We paleo and Weston A. Price I don't think they were really around back then when I was growing up.
Probably weren't.
But my mom was a vegetarian. She was very health conscious. My dad is from a different country. He's from Colombia, and so he came from a background where fresh food is really important and cooking at home is really important. So those were some of the things that I grew up with. What I didn't grow up with was having junk and sweets in my house. So naturally, going over to anybody else's house, that is what I wanted.
Oh, I had the same experience myself, by the way.
Yeah, I think a lot of us do, right? And back then, it's not a thing. We don't look at this and say, "Hey, this isn't okay. This is going to lead somewhere to a darker place down the line," right? But I think that is a piece of what contributed to it for me, And then in college, I was on the college diet like everybody else. And so Panda Express, Taco Bell, all of the terrible things that we, aren't, that we are guiding our clients and our friends and family away from. That's where I was. And so there was plenty of sugar. Well, sugar coming from, all of the grains and the carbohydrates and stuff that I was eating, plus the actual sweet things. And so, so I was addicted. I was very much addicted to those things. And I know that I would turn towards them, when I was having really bad moments, especially I was in a complicated relationship back then, and so I mean, yeah, I mean, just like in the movies, certainly, eating chocolates, ice cream, whatever. But I think that's not a unique story.
No.
Like, I think that a lot of people go through that, and yes, a big piece of it is stopping the eating of these things that are perpetuating the biochemical component to it. But then there's also the other component. What is it that you love, and is it there? And for most of us, the answer is no, it's not there, or it's not there enough, right? And for so many people, and we're privileged that we can say we love what we do, but for so many people, they don't. They don't like their jobs, or they're not living in an apartment or in a home that they want to,
Right.
or maybe they're living, across the country from their family, things like that. And even all of those things, they can come out as something like that, something where we're constantly searching for a temporary form of gratification of feeling good. And so I think that's one of the biggest reasons we're having this conversation today, is because we want to bring up that question. What do you love, and what do you not love, and where is that balance for you? Is it here? What do you love and what do you hate? Is it
Sure.
here? Is it here? So what about you, Mark? What do you love?
I love helping people, which is how I got into in this world. But I love a lot of things. I love spending time with my family. I love being outdoors. I love being in the mountains. I love hiking and backpacking and camping. That brings me a lot of joy. My followers have heard that many, many times because I keep telling them to do that. But, it's one of the things that I talk about with my patients, and I don't use the word love with them. I use the word joy, right? That we have to find more joy and more happiness in our day-to-day life than what we have. Because if all we have is, and hopefully there's some joy in the work you do, right? But in the job that pays your bills. But if all we have is wake up, go to work, come home, go to sleep, and you're just repeating this every day, that's not really living. There's got to be more to life than that. And so we often, as you say, get caught up in the comfort of the routine, and so we don't do those other things that bring us joy, or we forget because our partner likes to do something else, or somebody else likes to do whatever it might be, and so we forget or lose the things that we love to do and that bring joy to ourselves. And it doesn't have to be things that are complex. It could be I just love spending time with my family or my friends or whatever it is. And it's about doing those things and doing them frequently enough that they nurture the soul, because it's those things that bring joy and love in your life that really nurture you deep inside. It nurtures your spirit. And if we don't have that aspect, then it's hard to heal ourselves, right? There's an aspect of that that's very healing, even though we might not, when we think of health, we don't necessarily think of it that way. But we need that love, that support, that joy, that whether it's friends or family or the hobbies that we do bring us, and we need to keep doing them often.
Absolutely. I love that you said all of those things. I love a lot of those things as well. But you made me think of this weekend. I was fortunate enough to go to a 10-year reunion with some of my friends from college, and most of us, thankfully, are doing very well. All of us are doing very well. But one of us in particular, I noticed, was particularly unhappy with herself and with her body. And it made me very sad because I realized as we're on this trip that because she clearly was communicating what we're asking, that she's not doing enough of the things that she loves or that bring her joy. And there's so little of it in her life that the way it came out when we were together, when the five of us were hanging out together this weekend, was I saw a lot of situations where she was stopping herself from doing healthful, fun things that would not only bring her joy, but help her along that journey that she's already on. So, for instance, I saw this particular person not jump into pictures with us because, she felt shame or guilt around the way that she was going to look in those pictures. I saw her, not take a hike with us when we were going for, just pretty easy hikes, stuff like that. So I think that for some of us, it can even go that far. Like when we are so lacking in the things that we love and that bring us joy, we can literally take ourselves in the other direction and self-sabotage, especially when we're around other people that are doing the things that they love and bring them joy. I think sadly people can get to that place where it's like, well, what's the point? I'm already down here. What's the point?
Right.
But the point is that instead of looking at yourself and saying there's nothing that I can do, this is where I'm destined to be. I'm either destined to never be in pictures, or destined to have a sugar craving forever, or I'm destined to be unhappy. I think one of the biggest things that Mark and I are saying in this conversation about love and joy is that you have so much power in your own health experience. And if you're choosing to not feel the love or to feel the joy, then that isn't on the health professionals that you're seeking help from. That's not on the doctors or the fertility experts or the nutrition coaches and movement coaches. That a big piece of that is on you. So you have to put in the work too to turn that around. And you have to dig deep and ask those hard questions. Just like in Shavasana, where, that piece of my brain was hammering at me and saying, what do you love? What do you love? What do you love? That wasn't easy for me. I wanted out of that Shavasana like I've never wanted out of a yoga pose in my life. And I wasn't feeling the burn. Maybe the mental burn, But I do think that we have to be, I think a lot of people are like, be okay with it or don't be okay with it. I don't care, but just go there. Ask yourself the question. It's an uncomfortable question, so it's going to feel uncomfortable. What do you love? What brings you joy? And why isn't it in your life? Yeah. Is it because you don't have time? I sort of don't believe in the I don't have time thing. I believe we make time for the things that are valuable for us.
Sure.
In the moment. And if that thing that you love isn't valuable enough right now to bring into your life, if it's hikes or if it's music or if it's being with your family, then how can you turn that around? Or what is something new that you love? It doesn't have to be this thing that you've always loved from your childhood. That happens to be how it is with me. I've loved music since I was a child and I still love it. But we pick up new things we love along the way. I love barefooting. I used to wear high heels every day to school. Never in my life did I think I would be a barefooter and love it. You know what I mean? So there are things that we love that we pick up along the way. And it's just important. It's just important to be asking yourself that question and not letting yourself get buried in the rat race of the 9 to 5,
right,
and then wonder why your health experience isn't what you want it to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that I was at a seminar this weekend, and a lot of it was, well, we talked about so many different things, but I think one of the overall themes that was going on behind it were twofold, which I think in many ways we're talking about. One is doing the things that we love to do are not only going to bring us the most fulfillment, but the most reward in our life, both spiritually and financially, right? If you're doing the things that you love, then you're going to thrive more. It's easier to be successful doing the things that you love to do. And then also, which you kind of said, there was nothing more that you wanted than to get out of that Shavasana pose, was sometimes the hardest things are through the doors that we don't want to enter, right? Those places that we are scared to go down because we get nervous and they bring us some discomfort. We feel it inside. Those are the places that we need to go because actually that's where the biggest rewards are. And oftentimes we shy away from them for those very reasons, like, oh, that makes me a bit uncomfortable. I don't think I'm going to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
Yeah, and I think we spoke before the interview. We spoke about this word sacrifice. And I think there's two ways that we can use it. One is when we're not doing the things that we love to do, we're sacrificing ourselves, we're sacrificing our life, we're sacrificing the things we love to do for the things we don't love to do. right? And there's always going to be things that we don't like to do. I don't like washing dishes. I don't like taking out the trash. I don't like cleaning the house. But these are things that we have to do. But you can make them, you can do them and have a good attitude about them, even though you don't love to do them.
Yeah,
Right?
and there's, the word sacrifice is interesting because I think people sometimes use that interchangeably with compromise, and they're not the same thing, right?
Right.
Like, I'll make a compromise with my husband, like he'll do laundry on Sundays, and I'll wash dishes, every day of the week. Fine, is it such a
Right.
is it such a sacrifice? It's not such a sacrifice. I'm not going to keel over after I wash the dishes because I hate it so much or something like that, which I actually really don't hate washing the dishes. But that's an example, a sacrifice is something much bigger.
Sure.
Much, much, much bigger. That's much. I think of sacrifices as those dramatic, like it's eating away at my soul kind of thing. But
Sure.
that exists. That's really real for a lot of people, things that eat away at people's souls. Sugar addiction, feeling like they're overweight or uncomfortable in their own skin, having broken relationships with family members. Those are the things that eat away at your soul.
Sure.
Taking out the trash. That's not a that's a compromise, or that's just some dull chore that you've got to do. But
Sure.
so I think it's good for us to recognize those things too.
But when we're also not doing the things that we love to do, we're
Mhm.
we're sacrificing the joy and the happiness we can have. And
Yes.
we're also potentially sacrificing the joy and the happiness others can have, or you might even be sacrificing the people that you can help that you're not able to help because you're not doing the things you love to do. There's so many ways to look at that, right? That hopefully allows you to cross through that threshold and go through that door to start to do the things that you love to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So where might a person start with those things? Well, first of all, I mean, there's a lot of different ways. If you're the kind of person that likes to make lists, you can start with a list. Some of us type A people are like that, right? I'm like a type B plus. So lists are okay in my book, but if you like to make them, by all means, title it. What do you love at the top, and then list at least 5 things. If you can't list 5, list 3. But you'll probably find that when you start, there's a lot more than 5 things that you love, and then cross-check that with your calendar. How many times are any of these things showing up in your calendar? If you love guitar, I'm learning to play the guitar. If you love guitar, are there guitar lessons, in your weekly or monthly schedule? If you love to hike, is that somewhere in your schedule? If you love to chit chat on the phone and catch up with your friends, is that in your schedule? So, I mean, not everyone writes everything down in their schedule, but if you're like me and if it's not in the calendar and you're going to forget, I mean, that's a good place to start. Take a look at the things that kind of weigh down on you. Maybe that's your job or whatever, the other chores, the things that you don't like, and see how that compares with the amount of time that you're giving over to the things that you love and bring you joy. And then once you've kind of weighed that out, just even for the next week, try and double that. Try and double whatever that choose one, choose maybe 2 things. Phone conversations, hiking, whatever it is. Your stuff may be different than my stuff. And try and schedule that in double. And if you can't do it next week because you're traveling, then do it the following week. I mean, what I'm saying is adaptable, right? It's very adaptable. But that's a good place to start. If you're the kind of person that likes to chat it out, you always need to decompress by chatting it out with somebody, then go grab your best friend or call them on the phone and ask them, hey, what do you think I love? Because a lot of times the way that the people we love the most think about us, hopefully, is somewhat similar to the way that we think of ourselves. And or they can remind us of some of the stuff that we forget about, right? Because we're always too close to our own stuff. So it's good to get another perspective. But those are 2 easy ways to start. And then, ask yourself, am I the kind of person that's doing self-sabotaging kind of stuff? What does that mean? Are you constantly, you know, eating things and then beating yourself up about it, like sugar, for example?
Hmm.
That's a way of self-sabotage. Are you working out really hard and then binging on other foods? That's a way of self-sabotage. Are you wearing clothes that you wish you could wear but you don't like the way that you feel in them, and then taking pictures of yourself of them and putting them up on your wall and telling yourself how terrible you look? That's a really bad form of self-sabotage. So ask yourself those questions as well.
Those are some really helpful tips and tools to get whoever's watching us today to start to make change and start to grow and learn and incorporate the things that we love to do into their lives. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I've spoken about this theme before, and hopefully, and I think it's an important enough theme and topic to repeat, which is why Dell and I are talking about it today. I think all too often we ignore this, and sometimes we just need to be knocked on the head a couple more times to realize that we need to do more of what brings us joy and happiness and love into our life, and stop doing the things that go against that. So this was awesome. Thank you so much, Dell.
Yeah.
Dell talked about sugar addictions a couple times during this conversation. If someone has sugar addictions and they are needing some tools or tips to get through that as they start to hopefully move away from those things and move towards the things that they love to do, do you have any suggestions, or what can you offer them?
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys head over to my website, code2wellness.com, there's a really cool free PDF that you can get, and it outlines 6-7 ways that you can begin overcoming that sugar addiction. And some of them are also very much intertwined with this theme of what do you love. There's some great examples in there of a very specific gratitude journal that I like to use, and of a bunch of other tools that can help you analyze not just this question, but to overcome those sugar cravings too. And on and on another scale, there's some great stuff in there about working in probiotics, and working in my number one favorite natural supplement, which you can make at home to help overcome your sugar cravings. There's a couple other supplements and other tools mentioned in there, but it's a really, really good place to start, and it's free. So, you might as well just pick it up.
That's great. So I'll put a link to that in the description below this video to let everybody grab that as well. Thanks so much, Del. This was awesome. Hopefully everybody out there got some useful information. I know I did, and hopefully they learned a little bit more about you in the process.
Yeah, thank you so much again for having me.
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's been great. So again, thanks everyone for joining us on Fertility TV. If you want more information about Dell, you'll find that information below. If you like this video and want to learn about all of our upcoming videos, then hit the subscribe button. And you can find out more about me at marcsklar.com. I'm the Fertility Expert. And until next time, we'll see you there. Thanks.